Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage. What's going on, everyone? It's Jaron from Jeranism, back with a live video for you. Thank you for joining me. I do appreciate it. Let's call this one Level, Plumb, and Square, because I want to discuss why it is that we see what we see, because some seem to still not get it. First off, I wanted to send a shout out to Bob Nodell, Xanadude60. If you guys didn't get a chance to check that out, what he recently did was had an interview with CBS 4 Denver, as you can see on the screen now. Because of copyright reasons, I'm just going to kind of skip through it. We're not going to play it, but you can find that. A lot of people have already mirrored it, Celebrate Truth, and you can just look at the CBS 4 Denver YouTube channel, and you'll see that this Jamie Leary had a little discussion with Bob, and Bob did an awesome job, and it was one of the first times where, there wasn't circus music playing in the background or any kind of degrading comments or nonsense. It's just kind of what it is that we believe and why we're all joining together in just a few days for the Flat Earth Conference. We're about 2 weeks away. So if you are free on November 15th and 16th, head over to Denver or head over to fe2018.com. Bob did a great job answering their questions, and I believe that there are going to be further segments of this, so keep your eyes open as more segments are released. So just wanted to do a shout-out and a thank you to Bob for doing that, and he did better than I could have done, that's for sure. So congratulations, Bob, on that one. Awesome to see the media finally taking us, at least it seems, seriously, or at least reporting what it is we actually believe and not starting out with the fact that we're rising at 9.8 meters per second squared or all the other nonsense that you might find on disinformation channels or websites. Second thing I want to do real quick is to point out a recent, and let me bring it up for you. This was a recent debate between Chris Van Metre and Jesse Kozlowski. So let me bring that up so you can see it. There we go. It was just the other night, I believe, on Sunday evening. A great little debate if you want to check it out. What we have here is two surveyors who are both discussing the flat Earth. Obviously, Chris Van Metre, the one on the screen now, with the coolest hat ever, the Earth is Flat and NASA Lied hat. He is a surveyor, but has come to the conclusion that the Earth is a level stationary plane, as it appears to be. And you got Jesse Kozlowski, who is trapped in the religion of scientism and who kind of refuses to see any other way but the way he was taught. Throughout this interesting debate, there was a story told by Chris Van Metre. I thought it was awesome, so we're going to go ahead and listen to that now. Let's make sure you can hear it, and here goes.
And now, before we go,
all right,
I'd like to tell this short little story. And the story, what it is this lady and her daughter, as her daughter's growing up, every Thanksgiving, she helps her mother make the ham for the Thanksgiving dinner. So her mother gets out a pan, she gets out the ham, she sets the ham up on the counter and cuts off both ends of the ham. She sets the ham in the pan and cooks it. So as the years go along, they change traditions, and her mother starts going over to her daughter's house, and her daughter starts preparing the meal. So it's Thanksgiving again, and the daughter takes out her pan, takes out the ham, she puts the ham on the counter and cuts off both ends of the ham, puts it in the pan, and right as she's going to put it in the oven, her mother asks her, "Why did you cut off both ends of the ham?" And her daughter told her, "Well, that's the way you made it the whole time when I was growing up." And her mother looked at her and said, "I cut off the ends of the ham because it didn't fit in the pan." Now, the moral to this story is this lady assumed This whole time while she was growing up, that was the way to prepare a ham. Not knowing that if her mother would have explained to her that she was cutting off the ends of the ham because it didn't fit in the pan, she would have known. Now, that's what happens in a lot of things, medical field, surveying. When I come up through the ranks, who taught me how to survey? A person that was older than me, that was taught this is how you do it. And the person that taught him was taught the exact same way. So in my paradigm, I'm not cutting off the ends of the ham anymore, because I now realize there's another way to look at this. And there's other things that's been ignored throughout the years, like the instrument error within the instruments that everybody wants to discontinue. And the reason they want to do that is the horror of what that is going to bring forth. What it's going to bring forth is that when you're looking at a target, 2 miles away and it's below your crosshair, it has absolutely nothing to do with the curvature of the earth. It has everything to do with the way the instrument is made and operates.
So I thought that was really well said, because from my perspective, I'm the same boat as Chris is. I'm no longer cutting off the ends of the ham. That's the way you have to look at it, is there's no longer a need to stay attached to what you were taught if you can find errors and flaws in it, even if it's believed by the entire world, even if it's believed by all your family and friends, and if it's taught in universities, doesn't matter. Doesn't mean that it's a fact, doesn't mean that it's the truth. Much like his story of the mother and the ham, that the ham was actually trimmed off for the mother's own reason, that the pan was too small, and that's the reason she did that every time. And then the child just grows up and thinks that we cut off both ends of the ham when we cook them. Well, the same thing is true when it comes to surveying. You've got an entire profession that is taught exactly how to survey the earth, and so that it comes out the way that they want. Well, what Chris has figured out is that there is errors in the instrument, amongst errors in the methodology, amongst errors in the thought process behind surveying. And so we're going to kind of look at some of those today. I'm going to show you real quick here just some video that I took myself to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. But awesome job, Chris. I thought that was amazing. And by the way, hope you're going to the conference, because David Weiss says he wants to give you a hug. So hopefully I can see that happen. Now, let's see here. Bring this up. All right, 1 second. Let me pause this. All right. So in this first video here, actually, which one is the more older one? This one? Let me switch to this one. All right. So in this video, I just want you to kind of see, and hopefully you can see my mouse. I'm going to hopefully, let's see. So if you can see my mouse, which I think you can, down at the end of my street, you'll see this telephone pole here. And below it, if you look very carefully, you can see the sidewalk. Okay? It's a very slender piece of light gray. Definitely you can see it differentiate between the road and the gray sidewalk. Now, when I lower the camera, as one would expect, you will see that as of here, we've lost the sidewalk. Okay? The sidewalk is now gone. You'll see as we get lower, the sidewalk is definitely gone. In fact, the little base that the telephone pole sits upon looks to be almost gone as well. Now, as I get all the way to the ground, you can see that the sidewalk is certainly gone. You can see this pathway that walks to a little walk path here. Now, this simple little example is just showing that the higher up that you are, the farther you can see, because you have an increased angle to everything you're looking at. The least angle is this sidewalk. It's very, very small here at this horizon line. So you have to look at it this way. Imagine my dog. My dog, if he is a heliocentric believer, would think that this telephone pole, this sidewalk, is falling behind the curve. Okay, because that's what people who believe in the curved earth think. They think that when we see things get obstructed, like this sidewalk becomes obstructed here, they think that that is falling behind the curve. So to my dog, this sidewalk must be behind the curve of the earth. Granted, I'm 6'2", so I'm up here. This is my height, and I'm able to see the sidewalk. Somebody smaller than me, somebody who's a foot tall or 2 foot tall, talking about a dog or something. Of course, we're just using this as an example. You can raise this up and the distances and start to see what we're talking about and the problem with surveying. Let me show you another video here. This one might be a little harder for you to see, and I think it may be impossible for you to see. What I did was I walked down to this telephone pole down here, and I took a piece of red duct tape and wrapped it around the telephone pole at exactly my eye height. Okay? Exactly at the height of my eyes. I walked up to the pole, put my head against it, and then wrapped that tape right at my eye height. Then came back here to record it, and of course the video's not really showing it. I was using my iPhone. But maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. I can barely see it. It's about here. But clearly, when you walk back to this location where we're looking at from now, that red duct tape appears lower than my eye level. Okay, what's the reason for that? Well, it's perspective. Clearly, the distant items appear to get smaller. And if there was a telephone pole behind that one, and I also walked up and put a red piece of tape on that one, and then there was one behind that one, and I put a red piece of tape on that one, we would see a gradual reduction in the height of the red tape as we go towards the horizon. Correct? So people should start being able to see the problem we have here with Jesse Kozlowski, who will tell you that when he takes out his theodolite, which is just a telescope, basically with a leveling in it. But let's say we level this telescope and we shoot it down off yonder. Well, when they see that that red piece of duct tape is below the crosshairs of the theodolite, they say that's the curvature of the Earth. That's what surveyors call curvature. So there is no doubt that what's happened here is they've taken perspective, stolen perspective, and called it curvature. And once you start to recognize that, then you'll see where all these issues come in. Because if Jesse was measuring this and he found the height of that red tape and found it to be below the crosshairs of his telescope, he then assumes that the reason it's below is because the pole is leaning away from him because it's a curved Earth. So, you can believe that if you want. You can absolutely believe that if you want. However, if you understand perspective and the fact that things get smaller in the distance, for instance, this vehicle down here is a full-size truck. It's like a Ford F-150 or something like that. And from my position where I'm at here, I look taller than this truck. Clearly, I'm not taller than that truck. I'm probably about the same height. The truck's a little taller than me. So you can start to see that as things go into the distance, they reduce in size. Do they reduce in actual size? No. But that's not what we're trying to figure out here, because when you look through a telescope, all that exists in that telescope is what you're looking at through that cylinder. Let me see if I can kind of draw a picture in a sort of kind of weird sort of way. All right, let me see. Bring this up. Oops. Let me transfer you over here so you can see what I'm seeing. All right, this is just a quick little drawing, but I'm trying to show you here. If this is a telescope, this red bar that I'm playing with here, and we level this telescope, well, all that exists in that telescope's view is, let me change color so you can see what I'm doing. All right, all that exists in this telescope's world is this line of sight here. Okay? But that's not reality. Reality is that there's much more to the world, all that's up here, all that's down here. And so what we have to do, and you can get Soundly, and you can find Sean Hufford, and you can find Jesse Kozlowski and all these clowns who will laugh at me because I say, well, we haven't told the telescope yet how reality works. And they laugh and hee-haw and slap their knees. Tell the telescope, we've got to tell the telescope reality. It's so funny. Well, I pity you for being so stupid, because you don't realize what's going on is you're simply trapping the view in this corridor. The telescope can only zoom in that corridor. It cannot zoom in up here or zoom in down here. So when you have things reduce in size over distance, then you have a problem, because you have to tell the telescope that. Let me explain it a little better. This is also the entire, everything about flat Earth is encompassed in this one idea. If you can grasp this idea, then you can understand that perspective has been stolen and replaced with curvature, even though there is no curvature of the Earth. Okay, so here's what we have. Let's say that this is our telescope and it is leveled, perfectly leveled. It's on this little stand here. We can use a bubble leveler. We can use an inclinometer, whatever we want to use. Okay, but this is perfectly level. Okay, so we know that this shoots off in this direction, kind of like this, and stays. Oops, let me get this thing. Okay, I didn't grab that very well. Anyway, we'll leave that. That's kind of shooting off in this direction. Now, if we had little poles, and let's say that this is 6 feet high, and we've got a pole at 6 feet, and we've got a pole at 6 feet, and we've got a pole at 6 feet, and we've got poles at 6 feet all the way down here. Okay? Oops, I kind of messed that one up. All right, there we go. So we're just saying that all these poles are level all the way down. We know that from the orthographic view, the side view here. We can say, oh yeah, all these poles are exactly the same height. Okay? But if we went and stood behind this telescope at 6 feet, okay, and peered through the telescope, what would we see? Well, what you would see is, let me see if I can kind of try and draw this. So this is, we're going to pretend like we're looking through the eye hole of this telescope. Apologies that my art is less than stellar. Okay, and then we can pretend like we're seeing a bunch of poles, these poles, falling off in the distance. What you would see is, sorry, wrong shape. All right, what you would see is, you would see this first pole, but then the second pole would drop. The third pole would drop. The fourth pole would drop. Of course, this is looking off kind of at a perspective view as you get towards the horizon and the poles get lower and lower and lower. Well, the problem with that is your telescope view is only going to see straight and level across, but these poles are going to fall away from it. So in a weird way, this pole would actually be here, and this pole here, and this pole here, and so on and so forth down towards the horizon line. Now, this is the problem that happened with the Bedford level experiment, that it was done at first and both sides claimed victory. One side claimed flat earth proof, the other side claimed, no, that's not flat earth proof, that's curved earth proof. Well, here's the problem, and this is what Robotham came and said, and see if you can follow this line of thinking. If you can, then you can understand flat earth. That in order to actually see whether the earth is flat or not, what you would have to do is you'd have to tilt this telescope. People would say, what? Tilt? I thought we were going to do it level and flat. Well, the telescope is not capable of determining reality for us because we see things get smaller in the distance. Meaning, rather than point this telescope here, what you would need to do is you would need to point the telescope, and again, this is a side view, but we need to be pretending we're back here. Pretend you're standing here, okay? And we need to point that telescope down till it hits the top of the first two posts. Okay, so from a side view, kind of like this, you would look through the telescope, you would line it up, the crosshairs, to hit the top of the first two posts. And then guess what? That would follow the line all the way down to the horizon perfectly. You know, this is just dummied up, but, you know, you'd have this kind of view where every pole would stay directly in line with the telescope, proving the Earth to be flat. Because if the Earth was curved, what you would see is, let me drip these out. Okay, so if we look through the telescope and we aimed it at the top two posts, okay, so we have, remember this is a 6-foot telescope, we're aiming it out and we're going to hit the top of these first two posts right here and here. So you're aiming in line with post number 1, get up there, and post number 2. Okay, if the Earth were curved like a ball, then what you would start to see after you aimed it at the first two posts, you would see the third one maybe in line, but then all of a sudden you'd start to see this. You would start to see posts fall off of the level line because the Earth is curved. It's not a slant. It's not a slope. But what we see when we aim at the first two posts is we see that crosshairs stay directly in line with every post, and you can think of telephone poles. And another way to look at this is, let's kind of see if you can follow this one. Go out here. All right, so, and one way to look at this is if we had a cloud, and this is just a thought experiment. We have a cloud up here, okay? And on top of it, we laid a telescope. So here's our telescope. We're laying it on top of a cloud. We're pretending that that's possible at whatever height that might be. Let's say it's at 3,000 feet. And there's the telescope. All right. If you laid that and leveled that with the cloud, if you got behind it, would you see the horizon or would you see more sky? Well, the answer is you would see more sky because, again, the only thing that exists in the eye of the telescope is this column. Think about it. You're looking through a telescope, right? If we look through a telescope viewfinder or the eye hole, all that exists is the circle of sight through the telescope. Okay, so if things fall away, if things get larger, if things go outside here, the telescope has no idea. The telescope is leveled here, but we know that things all reduce in size till they get to the horizon. And that is, in a nutshell, what's wrong with surveying. Is surveying thinks, well, if I leveled this telescope, why do I keep picking that? 1 second. In surveying, they think if I level this telescope, then everything on throughout all of history in the future, I mean, in the distance, must maintain with this level. But that's just ridiculous. I just showed you in this video here. Oops, not that video there, but this one here. I just showed you, and you can go out and do this for yourself. Don't just take my word for it because you can't even see the red tape on the telephone pole. Go do this right now. Go walk to a distant item, put duct tape at your eye level, walk back quite a bit of a distance, and look, and you tell me whether or not that particular piece of tape is at your eye level or has it dropped. Now, if I set up a telescope here and I peered through the telescope, now granted, this is a short distance. So if you look through a telescope, it may be that that red piece of tape is right on the crosshairs, but it also may be that it's slightly below. Okay? Now, somebody who's in the surveying profession would take that to mean that the Earth is curved because obviously the telescope is leveled. It's looking level all the way down the street, and the red tape falls below it. Therefore, there must be curvature of the Earth. And if you think that, that's pretty crazy to me. So I have a little short, let's see, we'll play this. All right. So, we can ask ourselves, is the Earth a spinning ball? And if you look at what we're told, of course, we're told many things, but one of those things that we're told is that the Earth spins, okay? We're told that the Earth spins from west to east and at a crazy speed of 1,040 miles per hour at the equator and 0 miles per hour at the poles. And it takes 23 hours and 56 minutes and a few seconds to spin the Earth once around its axis and come back around to the same spot in the sky where the sun is. So we also know that they tell us that the distance to the sun is 93 million miles. Okay, that's what they tell you. It's between 91,340,000 and 94,448,000, so a difference of about 3 million miles, creating an oval path. Okay, we travel 595 million miles yearly in orbit of the sun. And a year is 365 days, 6 hours, 9 minutes, and 9.5 seconds. And you can go and find this information anywhere you want. It's not something I'm telling you that you don't know. We also travel around the sun at 66,600 miles per hour. And again, I said you could go anywhere and you could see this for yourself. How fast is the Earth moving? And they will give you those same answers. Okay, so that's what they tell us is going on. They tell you that you're flying, that you're spinning 1,038 miles per hour, orbiting the sun at 66,600 miles per hour, 595 million miles in yearly, 500,000 miles per hour around the galaxy. On top of that, you can take what the entire galaxy itself is moving around the Great Attractor, and that gives you about 1.5 million miles per hour around the universe. Of course, that's what we're told. Let me tell you a little bit something here. Let's talk about the carpenter's level. Okay, everyone's seen a carpenter's level before, usually a piece of machined aluminum with a small cylinder of water. That small cylinder is a slightly curved when it's made, and then it's filled almost fully. This way it creates a bubble inside once it's sealed, and only when that is placed completely and totally level will that bubble rest in the middle. Okay, so we know everyone's seen one of these many times. It's used throughout the earth to build everything that you see. Anything that you see that's ever built is built and must be level, plumb, and square. It's required of everything. So if you really start to think about that and the ideas behind the level, well, if you are a globe earth believer and you picture putting a bunch of these levels together, maybe we glue them end to end. Well, after 25,000 miles, according to a heliocentric believer, that level will wrap around and come back to where it started. Even though we know that a level is a perfectly straight piece of a machined aluminum and is used to build everything that we see around us, skyscrapers, houses, barns, sheds, you name it, everything is built as we see on the screen with a carpenter's level. This is how we get straight and level and perfect buildings. Okay, they have to be square, plumb, and level. Required. That's how you build a shed, and that's how you build a garage, and that's how you build a house, and that's how you build a skyscraper and a ballpark, whatever. Everything has to be taken first, square, level, and plumb. Okay. That being said, when we do it, let's say that we decided, and they also use a square. I didn't mention that, but a square is the triangle piece that's used to make sure that you've got 90-degree angles, that things sit perpendicular to each other. And it's another building tool used in the trade and used for every building that you've ever seen made, every skyscraper, every house, every shed. So let's say that you and I decide we're going to build ourselves a backyard shed. Okay? So we've taken the foundational piece and we've made sure with our carpenter's level that the ground that we're about to build on is level, square, and plumb. We can build our house and it sits up perfectly. Beautiful. Fantastic job. But then our neighbor comes by and he says, hey, I like your shed. Let me use your level. I want to do the same thing in my backyard. And so he builds a shed, level, plumb, and square. And then let's say the neighbor next to him does the same thing. Sends it out to his family and friends. Hey, look what I built. I used a level and I was able to build this shed in my backyard. Well, if your next door neighbor builds a shed, and the one next to him builds a shed, and the one next to him builds a shed, pretty soon you should start to realize that you are standing on ground that is level. Now, granted, there is hills and mountains and different undulations and surface features. Now, again, we're not building these sheds on the peaks of hills, but we could take any portion of a hill and create it level, plumb, and square. And these are all over the earth. They're everywhere you look. There's houses. Think of the block that you live on, and the block next to it, and the block next to it. So heliocentric believers honestly believe that if we took levels and laid them next to each other, level, 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 that they will rope around the earth and come back to where you started in a big sphere, circle path, arcs. But yet we're using the same level all over. So the whole idea of surveying is pretty ridiculous, and of course it's constructed exactly the way that you would do so if you're trying to fool the world that they live on a ball when they don't. That's why people who are surveyors survey very locally, and they say, oh, well, locally it's flat. Locally it's flat. Well, who measures the non-locally? You know, everyone's just saying it's local, it's flat, it's local, it's flat. Somebody's texting me 1 second. I want to make sure it's not a sound issue or some sort of nuclear weapon's been launched at me or something. I don't know. Oh, super chats. Thank you very much. Earth is seriously flat. Wow. Sweet. Over and over again. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. That is awesome. So in my image here, I'm just kind of showing you where the only place that would really truly be level on a sphere would be the top and the bottom. Other than that, you're going to have areas such as this, where if you live on a sphere, well, that's still level. You know, lucky you. As the Earth spins like crazy, remember that location must stay level. So as the Earth is spinning, and heaven forbid, don't tell anybody that we spin 1,000 miles per hour, and they'll tell you, oh, well, it's only one rotation per day, and that we wouldn't feel that because it's moving so slowly. Yet, when they teach you about gravity, they put a tennis ball at the end of a string and swing it around real fast, and they say, see how we're held into orbit with this string? But that's not reality, is it? Because if we took a universe sandbox kind of view of the Earth right now, we'd be standing still. So what is orbiting what at crazy speeds, keeping things in lockstep with the gravitational pull that it's supposed to be? It's just nonsense. It's all numbers. That's the thing. So yeah, as crazy as it is, they say, oh, flat earthers say that we would be able to fill a speed at 1,000 miles per hour, but we wouldn't, because it's just nonsense. Flat earthers they don't think that we're spinning. So all the spinning nonsense is on you. I am making no such claim that we're spinning. I'm making no claims that the Earth is level all the way around it on a circular sphere ball. I just don't make that stupid claim. Others will, and that's what we attack. So as this thing is spinning, we can see that it would not, of course, stay level. This is the idea of level. If you believe in the heliocentric model, this is what you believe in, that everywhere is level, no matter where you're at on the Earth. So everybody who builds a house is level house for him, level house for him. But really, when you look closely, is my video playing anymore? Don't know. Yeah, so we're going to zoom in up here, and we're going to picture if everything was pulled directly to the center. Rewind that a hair. If everything was pulled directly to the center, so we have this yellow line here pulled to the center, this line here. Let's say this is some sort of building that we're building on a, the lines wouldn't even be parallel. We would have buildings heading out at the tops. Of course, we don't have that. And again, you're going to have somebody who's going to say, oh, well, it's so imperceptible that we can't see. Well, yeah, isn't that the nature of everything heliocentric that there is? Oh, well, you wouldn't notice that. Oh, well, we wouldn't feel that, or we wouldn't, the stars, you wouldn't be able to tell how far they are away, or you wouldn't be able to tell how big the sun is, or you wouldn't be able to tell how wide it is, or you wouldn't be able to tell how far it is. Yeah, that's the point. That's the point of what we're saying. So someone has taken all the things that we can't come up with on our own or just by observing it. We can't just tell you how far the sun is away, right? Nobody knows just by looking at it. I'll estimate that's this certain distance. So when we don't know something, what do? They replace it with whatever works mathematically in their model. Doesn't mean you live there. Doesn't mean that the sun is 864,000 miles wide. Give me a break. Go outside right now. Take a look at the sun in the sky. First, notice the sun is moving in the sky. Okay? Not you are spinning on a ball, flying through infinite space. I don't care what speed it is. You would feel it. Your body is made to feel little differences all the time. You would feel it. Of course, these guys tell you to trust them. You got people who tell you you're very insignificant, and if you notice that those people all become significant because they tell you that. Neil deGrasse is significant because he tells you how insignificant you are. So doesn't that make good sense for Neil? He becomes significant by telling you you're not. As we continue on, talking a little bit more about the idea of plumb, level, and square, you'll start to realize that there's just no possible way. Thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate that a ton. That when you look at everything that's built from houses, from hotels, from skyscrapers, and then you add to that tunnels, bridges, railroads, and none of it takes the curvature of the Earth into account because, well, the Earth is locally level. It's level where you stand. But where does that end? Where does that stop? So if we kept building this fence, okay, we keep building this fence so down the road, we keep building it a mile, 2 miles. In 25,000 miles, this level, plumb, and square fence is going to, or siding, is going to come back around. It's going to go upside down, first perpendicular, then upside down, come back around perpendicular, and end up where you started. To me, that is bordering insanity. There has to be some sort of evidence that that is the case other than, well, people tell you, and it must be. It has to be. Because then when you realize that if you removed the idea of gravity from the equation, all of a sudden there's no answer for why the Earth is a ball. And that's why they'll never even look into the fact that gravity doesn't work the way they say, even though their observations prove it to them. So their observations prove that gravity does not work throughout the universe the way it works here on Earth. So what do? They invent dark matter and dark energy. Those things are clearly must exist because the Earth must be a ball because it must be pulled to the center by that must be gravity. That's the nature of being a religious zealot and promoting your religion despite evidence to the contrary. So everywhere you look, there's evidence that is contrary to the heliocentric religion, yet they will never question it, and they will never concede anything at all. So Nathan Oakley on his channel, Nathan Oakley 1980, which I think means he was born in 1980. I'm not sure if that's true, Nathan. Shout out to those of us born in 1980, the coolest bunch. Any other year that you were born, I don't know, just kind of pathetic to me. But 1980, those people rock. So if that is why your channel name is 1980, Nathan, congratulations on being an 80s baby. And also, I'm probably older than you because I was born in early 1980. Anyway, it's getting off on a tangent. Back to what I was saying. So Nathan, I think, does a great job recently of describing the way that things disappear from the bottom up. Something that still, I can't get a concession from a globe believer. Can you believe it? That even though it's as simple as put your friend in a pair of shoes, like we did in this video. Let me go back here. Not that we did, but we can imagine. So in this video here, sorry, not that one, this one. All right, so in this video here, if you imagine that down here we have a person in a pair of shoes down on this sidewalk. As we continue to walk backwards, further and further and further away, just like when we lower and we see that that sidewalk down at the end of the street is now gone, disappears. The same thing would happen as we backed away from somebody standing in shoes. We would eventually lose the shoes, okay? Well, if that person went and stood back in the shoes, well, we can still see the ankles, the shins, the thighs, the chest, the head of that person. But the bottom of them is starting to disappear from the bottom up because of its reduced viewing angle and our inability to see beyond the limit of our eyesight. That, I believe that angle is 0.03. I could be wrong on that. There's a great video. I know it's been mirrored on Wide Awake's channel. If you haven't checked out Wide Awake stuff, awesome observations by Dave. One of the best channels there is. If you can't get to a beach and make observations yourself, what's better than somebody standing at the beach every day with a camera and letting you observe the world from that camera's point of view? And you can see from there that there is nothing that's ever gone over any curve off into the distance. No boat's ever gone over any curve. I talked about it recently that I went to the Moss Landing area, which is directly in between Monterey and Santa Cruz, and I watched a boat go across the screen from left to right. Sorry, not the screen. Go across, the screen, the viewfinder, whatever, the LCD display or the display. I watched the boat go across left to right about 30 miles in a little bit over an hour. Clearly, the boat came from inside the Monterey Bay and headed over to Santa Cruz, and you can watch it stay right on the horizon the entire way. Yet, with 30 miles distance, that was 450 or 550 feet of curvature. Where was this curvature? And why would somebody at the Monterey side who watches that boat head off, within 3 or 4 miles, they would lose it, quote unquote, over the curve, which is just not the case. But that's what they would see. They would see the boat disappear from the bottom up, and then you would wait another half hour, 45 minutes, until somebody on the Santa Cruz side would see the boat appear to come over the edge to them. But of course, if I'm watching the thing go the entire way, let's kind of draw it out for you just so you can understand what I'm saying. Let's bring this back here. All right. So the way that the Monterey Bay is shaped is about like this. I'll go blue. All right. So the Monterey Bay is shaped a bit like this. It's probably bad drawing, but anyway. Kind of like this, and then you've got heading up towards San Francisco and that kind of stuff here. So this is the Monterey Bay. You've got cities like Pacific Grove here. You've got Monterey here. You've got Seaside here, Moss Landing here, Aptos here, Santa Cruz here. That's basically the Monterey Bay. And this distance between here and here is about 30 miles, 25 miles, between 25 and 30. Sometimes it can go to here. Okay. So what I did is I went to this location here. Okay. And we were observing boats out on the horizon. Of course, can't tell how far we can actually see. According to the heliocentric belief, it would be about 3 miles till we see this horizon line. But we see a boat take off from in this bay, so somewhere in here, and starts heading in this direction. From my view, which is looking like this, I see the boat travel along the horizon line. Okay, and here's your horizon line from my view. And this boat goes all the way across until it hits Santa Cruz. Like I said, it took a little bit over an hour for it to get over here. We just watched it along this horizon line the entire way. But again, if this person here was observing this boat, he would see the boat go over the curve and disappear within 3, 4, 5 miles. So all of a sudden, the boat was gone. And this person standing here would have to wait the entire time until they saw the boat within 3 or 4 miles start to appear over the curvature. So either the Earth is shaped like this, as a ball, which makes no sense, because this person watches the boat go over the curve, disappear, then the boat's just gone for about an hour, 45 minutes, and then this person over here sees the boat reappear. Okay? So obviously that's not what's happening. So we need to start looking at what's happening. Well, if I'm able to film the boat the entire way, well, then it's just traveling across the water, and both people are either losing it or seeing it come up over the hump because they're seeing it enter their viewing angle. It's not too small for them to see. It's not disappearing from the bottom up. So how I got into that was back to talking about Nathan Oakley. He just describes it well when he talks about putting somebody in this pair of shoes. Because as we step away, as we walk away from the shoes will eventually disappear. They will disappear way before the person standing in the shoes, proving things disappear from the bottom up on a plain earth. So if somebody's going around and telling you that this means the earth is curved, but yet we can prove that things disappear from the bottom up on a level plane, then do you understand what's going on here? When they told us, oh, boats go over the edge, and then you go out there with your camera, your eyes see it disappear, you pull it back with your camera, and you start to realize this is all about the viewing angle. That's all it is. So, oops, I was on this thing here. Let me bring it back so you can see what I'm doing. Here. So it's the same kind of thing as the distance here. That if you picture, let's go a little bit further in this video. Here. Okay, so we're dropping down here. Just like I said that my dog would think that the sidewalk has now gone beyond the curve. Well, it's the same thing as standing on the Santa Cruz side and watching the boat. You'd have to wait till the boat gets close enough, and then it would start to appear. Okay, and would it appear bottom first? No, it would appear top first. Just as in this sidewalk, obviously, as we back up here, let's go to here. Okay, so as we see the sidewalk disappears from the bottom up, right? And then as we raise up, we see it appear from the top down. That's all it is. It's that simple. And yet the entire world is fooled by it, including Jesse Kozlowski, because he only knows to cut off the ends of the ham. That's all he knows. He doesn't know anything else. And even when somebody tells him, hey, McFly, we're cutting off the ends of the ham because it doesn't fit in the pan, and you don't need to do that anymore because there is no pan that's restricting the size of the ham, and he sits there and argues, nope, I'm going to cut off the ends of the ham. I'm going to do it. That's what they've done. Here's a book written by some nobody in 1822, and he says that this is the way we do surveying, and it's the way it's been done, and that's the way I'm going to do it forever. And I'm never going to realize that I'm part of this deception, and I'm increasing the lack of knowledge in the world because I keep forcing people to cut off the ends of the ham. Well, just like Chris Van Mitri, I'm somebody who says, no way, no more. I'm not going to cut off the ends of the ham anymore, and you're free to do what you want as far as that goes. So that's about it for today. I told people I would keep my live streams to an hour, so that's it for me. First off, a big thank you to my patrons. I appreciate it so much. If you want to join them, which is the coolest club. It was in America. It might be in the world now. I'm not sure. I'll have to check the official ratings, but I'm pretty sure it's the #1 club in America. That is the patreon.com/jeranism, so you can join there if you'd like. And if you'd like to support without actually spending any money on me or giving me any money, but you do give money to Amazon, you can simply put in my link first, which is j.mp/JeranAMZ. And if you do that, you'll still pay the same price that you've always paid at Amazon, only I get a percent. So it doesn't cost you anything additional. Again, I'm not telling people who don't shop at Amazon, you must go shop at Amazon, or I'm not telling anybody you have to use my link. What I'm saying is if you would like to support and you already shop at Amazon, then why not let me have a few bucks rather than give them all to Jeff Bezos so that he can fake more space missions. So that's about it for today. Again, November 15th and 16th. Come to Denver, check out Flat Earth Conference. Should be a lot of fun. One thing that was just announced, which I think is awesome, Thursday night at 7 o'clock, we have a live debate between Rob Skiba and Robert Sungenis. So very thrilled about that. Definitely check that out. And to all my patrons, again, look for a Patreon post here coming up shortly. But we will be getting together for dinner at 5:30. And then we'll be back by 7 in time for the big debate. So that's going to be on Thursday. But all kinds of fun. We've got a Flat Earth Man Conspiracy Music Guru concert on Friday. We've got all the speakers lined up. You've got Globebusters, myself, Eru, Bob, possibly John even. He might be there. But Eru's giving a presentation on Friday. I've got my presentation on Friday. You've got all kinds of good people on on Thursday. But it'll be just a lot of fun. Where else can you go and be together with 1,000 people that are like-minded? You will not meet a better group of people, and I dare say you will not have more fun than if you join us in Denver, 15th and 16th. And for those who think I'm getting paid or something to go there, I'm not. I'm paying money to go there. So anyway, just want to throw that in there and appreciate everyone. As always, if you have any questions for me, best place to do that is ask.fm/jeranism. And I believe that's it. So do remember to do your own research, because if you do, you'll never again believe what you've been taught. Thank you for joining me, guys. This has been Jeranism, and until next time, peace.